Good morning, everybody. Now, here in the UK, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who's in charge of the country's finances, Rishi Sunak, is going to make a statement. But the last 2 years of the Johnson regime has been the most grossly financially irresponsible period in British history. They even make Tony Blair look good. They have added £500 billion to the national debt over 2 years. And that's more than the entire national debt up to the financial crisis in 2008 from the beginning of the nation. So we've had more debt added to our national finances in the last 2 years than in over 1,000 years up to 2008. The financial crisis. That's the situation that we're in. And it's all to do with the government's massively overblown response to COVID, which of course was a serious disease for those people who got it. But the number of people who actually got COVID without any comorbidities was really, really very low. It's 3,000 or 4,000, not the numbers that they're telling you. Because most of the other people who did die, which had got COVID on their certificates, their death certificates, had comorbidities, underlying health conditions, and the average age was 82. But regardless of that, they've increased our national debt by this huge amount of money. And actually now, more figures for you. From 2014 to 2018, our national debt, it was huge anyway after the financial crisis of 2008, but it was about 80% of debt to GDP ratio, 80% of our GDP. Now, if it holds at that level, you can slowly start to whittle it down, but it's going to take an awful long time. Now it's gone up to 95% of GDP. Now, if it goes up any more, if it goes up over 100%, I mean, that's pretty much game over. Our nation's finances will be as shot away as the finances of countries like Greece that have got, a debt to GDP ratio of 150% more. You never, ever pay that off. You'll never get it down. So we have got to go back to financial responsibility right now. And I'm sorry to say it, I'll give you the truth. This means austerity. And what we never had austerity after the financial crisis of 2008. People said there was. But what it actually means, what austerity actually is living within your means. It's not getting more debt. It's not spending more money than you take in. But that didn't happen. Over the last 40 years, there's only been 1 year where the government has not got more debt and actually paid down some of the debt that we have. Only 1 year in the last 40 years. I think it was 2001, something like that. But we need to be doing that consistently now. We cannot survive financially as a nation if we keep on getting more debt year after year after year consistently. And of course, what happens with that is the value of the pound goes down, and so we get inflation. So everyone is talking about the cost of living crisis at the moment, and it is a crisis, but they're talking about it completely detached from its source and its reality, as if it's just come out of nowhere. It's plain as day. If you increase the national debt by 25%, as they have done over the last 2 years, you're going to get 25% inflation. And people seem to think that the solution to that is to have more national debt. So then we'll have more increase in the currency supply, and we'll have more inflation. What we need to do is stop getting more national debt, stop piling on the deficit, stop piling on the debt, get back to financial responsibility. Look, they're talking about all kinds of measures to relieve the cost of living crisis, because things are really hard for families. I mean, over the COVID lockdown scenario, this guy, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, gave out furlough to millions and millions of people. And that bought people off. People accepted the lockdown because they were getting money for nothing. You're getting 80% of their salaries. Millions of people, not everybody, but millions of people were. And it was okay. So people could just carry on living. They were locked down, but they were getting money for working from home, which, it's not that hard, to be honest, to work from home. It's much easier than commuting to the office and actually having your boss looking over your shoulder every day. It's, for some people, it's a nice life. They liked it. But, unfortunately with that, you've got to pay. The time comes where you've got to pay for that, and the time is now. And people are talking about these measures. I agree with what people are saying. Let's cut a little bit of duty off petrol. That will relieve the rising cost of petrol. Let's not impose extra national insurance on people, because that's going to raise 14 billion for the Treasury, but that's the same as the foreign aid budget. So they take money in from the British taxpayer and they give it out to people abroad. And what they're going to use it on? Climate change. They're going to use it on building windmills in Patagonia and solar panels in Bangladesh. I mean, that is not what we should be spending British taxpayers' money on. What we need to do is cut the waste out of the government. We should not go ahead with HS2. There's £100 billion right there. Scrap HS2. Nobody needs it apart from the people who are parasiting money out of the contracts. Let's get rid of all the diversity officers. I mean, I don't know how many diversity, equality and inclusion officers there are. They spend their days talking nonsense, and probably billions of pounds we spend on these people just to spout rubbish and make people's lives a misery every day. Let's cut foreign aid apart from disaster and emergency relief, which the military can do. Let's stop giving money to these NGOs that have become politicised and often have a lot of corruption in them as well. Let's get rid of all the green subsidies. We spend tens of billions of pounds in this country subsidising windmills and solar panels and all other kind of nonsense that doesn't produce much electricity, and they stop producing electricity when the wind stops blowing, or when the wind blows too hard. They have to get switched off so they don't get damaged as well. Let's get rid of all the quangos that the government has that should be doing, they're doing things that the government should be doing, but they outsource things to bodies like Ofcom and Ofsted and the Equalities and Human Rights Commission and all that. And, all the quangos together cost about nearly £100 billion a year. Let's just get rid of them all and put the functions of government back into the government, the departments and ministries that they run, rather than outsourcing them and paying loads of money for executives to have a nice job doing things which the government should be doing itself. You could do all of that, and we'd be back in balance. We'd be back in balance. Do all of those things. I say we'll have financial responsibility. We'll cut the budget deficit to nothing, and then inflation will stop going up. I hate to say it to everybody, inflation is going to go up because of the irresponsibility of the last 2 years. There's nothing we can do to stop that. It's baked into the cake, if you like. We've got to accept it and adjust. But what we can do it without making the situation worse by continuing to spend billions and billions of pounds on utter rubbish, which is what the Tories were going to do. Labour would do the same. The SNP will do the same. But I'll do something different. Please come and join us at the Heritage Party, and let's restore common sense to our finances as well as our culture. God bless you all.